What's up guys, I'm AT from Men's Health and we've got the 7 best muscle building moves for each body part. When it comes to building muscle, there is no substitution for hard work in the gym, progressively overloading the work you're doing in the gym and fueling your body correctly. There's no such thing as the best move for any particular goal, but there are some moves that are more optimal and more efficient when it comes to building muscle. And we've got 7 of them here. Let's take a look. First up, we're going to take a look at that chest. And when it comes to building a bigger chest, most people immediately think bench press. And whilst there's no doubt that a lot of people have built some seriously imposing pecs with the bench press, for the majority of us with those poverty pecs genetics, we might need a slightly bigger range of motion and to be able to kind of have some free play in how you perform the reps. That's where these dumbbells come in. Dumbbell bench press for me is one of the most efficient muscle builders for the chest. I'm gonna take my dumbbells, kick it back, and then from here, nice big stretch, just press up and away. Slowly control down, press up and away, giving that chest a big squeeze at the top. We don't need to be too worried about getting them together, but what we want to be concerned with is getting a nice big stretch in those pecs at the bottom for explosively pressing away. Control down, explosively pressing away. Dumbbell bench press. Next up, let's take a look at the single arm shoulder press. As the name suggests, this is going to work those shoulders, and this is going to go a long way to putting some serious meat on those deltoids. I'm going to bring a dumbbell up onto one shoulder and simply press it up into the air, locking out overhead and lowering down under control. If you notice, I'm squeezing this opposite fist. This is going to help me to create tension through this side of my body. Of course, you can perform this with 2 arms, but by going unilateral, by just using one dumbbell, you're not only going to be able to use a slightly heavier weight per hand, you're also going to get more bang for your buck in that your core, your trunk is going to have to work to stabilize. What we're looking to do is find movements where we can use the maximum weight whilst also taking advantage of leverages and ensuring that we're just getting a little bit of work into that core. So we don't want to drift too far into complete novelty, but at the same time, the full-on heavyweight movements might not quite build as much muscle as you think. So onto your shoulder, press up and away. We don't want to be flaring that elbow out here. We also don't want to be tucked right in here. I've got a nice 45-degree angle, press up and away. Got a nice wide base with my feet, squeezing that fist. If we really want to up the muscle building ante, once we hit failure, once we can't press that weight up anymore, I'm just going to use a little dip from the legs and I'm going to push that weight up, but then lower it back down under control. Push it up, lower it back down under control. We're always a little bit stronger through that lowering portion, so we can take advantage of that by using our legs to drive it up and then slowly lowering it down under control, helping to get a few extra reps in and build some more muscle. Next up, we're going to be hitting the muscles in the back, everything you can't see in the mirror, and we're going to be looking at the Pendlay Row. If you're just working with your body weight, then pull-ups, body weight rows are great options, but barbell rows give you the opportunity to really load this movement up quite heavy, and Pendlay rows specifically let you work these lats through a huge range of motion. So all I'm going to do is grab my barbell, hinge at the hips. I want a nice flat back, torso parallel to the ground. I'm going to get a good grip on my bar, and then from the floor I'm going to pull myself down. I'm going to take all the slack out of that bar, loading up these hamstrings and just making sure that I'm not going to be jerking it around. I want a bit of tension before I start pulling, and from here I'm just going to pull up right into my hips. So from the floor right into these hips, back down to the floor, nice big stretch of the lats. Here, pull, squeeze, lower under control. Pull, squeeze, lower under control. You might have seen people performing barbell rows kind of up here. Great movement, but by going all the way to the floor, we're not only getting a huge stretch through the lats, it also means pulling from a dead stop each time. Next up, let's take a look at the quadriceps. Those are the muscles at the front of the legs, and we're going to be looking at front squats. Now, when it comes to squatting heavy weights and complete leg development, the back squat is definitely the front squat's bigger, heavier, meaner brother. But when it comes to focusing just on these quadriceps, on the front of the legs, the front squat just pips it, putting the emphasis slightly more on these quads. So we're going to take our bar either from the floor or from a rack if you've got it. You can also do this one with dumbbells. We're going to clean it up onto our shoulders into what we call the front rack position. So elbows are nice and high. You can also do this crossing your arms, and there's also special bars and special straps you can get. They're going to help you do this. And from here, elbows nice and high, nice strong posture. I'm going to breathe deep into my diaphragm, and I'm going to push my butt back and sink deep into that squat. Big deep breath. And what I'm looking is for my hip crease to pass below my kneecap, little pause at the bottom, driving back up explosively. Keeping that torso nice and upright, driving back up explosively. What makes the front squat such a great movement is it really helps you to learn this alignment. In a back squat, it's really easy to get dragged forward and kind of lose that upright posture. With the front squat, it helps you to keep this torso upright as you descend and as you ascend. So a great tool for learners if you're kind of getting towards learning that back squat. Next up, we're going to go from front to back, hitting those hamstrings, but really this entire posterior chain, all of these muscles that run up the back of your body. So your hamstrings, your glutes, these erectors in your back here. And we're going to hit those with Romanian deadlifts, a big hamstring movement. You've probably seen a deadlift before, just a slight little tweak to a regular deadlift. I'm going to come down to my barbell, and first and foremost, I'm going to do a regular conventional deadlift to get it off the ground, because I'm going to begin my Romanian deadlift from a lifted position. From here, I'm going to keep my torso flat, I'm going to keep my chest nice and proud. I'm going to drive my butt back, and I'm going to lower the bar, keeping it nice and close to my body till I feel a big stretch through my hamstrings, and I want to stop just before my posture breaks to get to the ground. So depending on your level of flexibility, you're going to be further down or higher up. I'll give you some tips on that in a minute, but first and foremost, driving those hips back, lowering the bar till you feel a big stretch in those hamstrings, and pulling back up. Pull those glutes through. Imagine you're pulling a band from behind you. Down and up, down and up. What you can do is set up some blocks or boxes below the plates or below your dumbbells to lower down onto, so that you're not risking kind of compromising your spine there to get down too low. And if you really want to kind of ramp up the muscle building ante and keep hitting those hamstrings, just as we did with that push press, we're going to shift the movement slightly so we can take advantage of that strong eccentric, that strong lowering portion. The way we're going to do that is we're going to do the pulling portion of the lift with a conventional deadlift, where the quads are helping. Then we're going to lower with that Romanian deadlift all the way to the floor, and then back up with a regular deadlift, then Romanian to the floor, and back up with that regular deadlift. That's just going to help us get a few more reps out and perhaps even go a little bit heavier. Romanian deadlifts. To quote one of the greatest philosophers of our time, Lieutenant Maverick Mitchell, when you're too close, the missiles will switch to guns. When it comes to building bigger arms, you're going to get a lot of indirect work on those biceps and triceps from your big pressing movements, from your big pulling movements. And for some people, that's enough. For the rest of us who God hasn't blessed with those genetics, we're going to have to do some direct arm training. When it comes to biceps, any curl variety is going to be your friend, but where some people suffer is in executing those curls with good, correct form that's going to keep the tension on the biceps. So that's where this movement, the incline dumbbell curl, comes in. I situate myself on a bench, leaning back, letting these dumbbells drift behind my body. I'm not able to really get any sort of body English in there to help these dumbbells come up, which means I've got to rely solely on my bicep to flex these elbows and bring those biceps up. If we lean back too far, it's going to kind of compromise the weights we can use. So we want to find a nice compromise where we can still use a decent set of dumbbells, but we're keeping it nice and strict. Seated, incline, dumbbell bicep curls. Next up, let's take a look at these triceps, the muscles on the back of your arms. A lot of people hammer those curls in an attempt to kind of grow their biceps and stretch those sleeves, but it's these triceps that actually make up 2/3 of the bulk of your arms. As I said in the previous movement, your arms get hit a lot indirectly when we're pressing, when we're pulling. I'll give you an example of a time when a movement that isn't necessarily aimed at the triceps, dips in this case, which are primarily a chest movement, actually turn out to be an incredible movement for building mass in the triceps. So all I'm going to do is bring myself up, and you can do this on gymnastics rings, specified bits of kit. I've done it on the back of hotel chairs in a pinch before. Lock myself out, and I'm going to lower myself down until I feel a big stretch through my chest and press back up. Now, if I want to put more of an emphasis on my chest, I'm just going to lean forward slightly. So my shoulders get a little bit more stretched and these pecs just stretch. If I want to hit my triceps a little bit more, I'm going to keep my body slightly upright, so these triceps get the bigger stretch. So I'm lowering myself down, trying to stay as level as I can with my torso, not leaning forward. Slowly control down, and then exploding back up, squeezing these triceps at the top. Slowly control down, exploding back up, squeezing at the top. All I'm doing there is bending at the elbow and then extending away using these triceps. Definitely a movement worth adding in to your arsenal, especially if you want to grow these tris.